Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to not another Friday video. I missed Friday. I got caught up in some issues with Adobe, so kind of lost track of the week. So I'm deciding to put this one up on Saturday instead, which is a recommendation for a film which I feel like most people have already seen this one, as it's considered a classic and one worth revisiting, as it's always a sure thing. And that being For the Lost Boys from 1987, directed by Joel Schumacher and starring a great cast, which includes but is not limited to Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. They were doing a lot of things back to back or together back then. Kiefer Sutherland, Jason Patric, Diane Weiss, Jamie Gertz, Alex Winter. I mean, there's just a lot of great people in here. And the synopsis for this one, if somehow not familiar, is as follows. When a recently divorced mother and her two teenage boys move to a coastal town to stay with her father, it doesn't take long for the brothers to realize the area is a haven for something much more sinister than party-going surfers. But rather than a simple recommendation for a very popular film like this, I figured I hadn't done one of those love letter style videos in quite a while, in a long time. So for this one, since I just rewatched this one this past weekend, I wanted to do a slightly different format with just a general 10 things that I love about this movie. But before continuing, of course, this will obviously have some spoilers in it, so if you haven't seen the film and are curious about it, let me just give the usual recommendation for it here, is that yes, it is a vampire film. That is not a spoiler, it is how it was marketed. It really speaks to the time that it came out, a lot of that MTV rock music and fashion going on, geared towards older teens, I would say, but easily crosses both younger and older, and it's definitely accessible to all. Now, while this is an 80s film, it holds up very well today. It's still very relevant and enjoyable, even if going in for the first time or without those rose-colored glasses of nostalgia going on. Though I do remember seeing this one in a theater and having accidentally put my hand in a pile of puke next to me, so my nostalgic glasses are not rose-colored at all. But at any rate, these 10 things, I will go into in more detail in just a moment, but basically this one does have a really great look, some great effects, really cool story, very fast pacing. It's definitely one that's worth queuing up and checking out if you've never seen it before, but strangely, even though this one is very fondly looked upon still, it appears to only be available on paid rental at the time of this video, but it's definitely worth checking it out if you haven't seen it before. So, here we go into the 10 things that I love about this film, which just things that come to mind anytime that I rewatch it or just looking back on it. So number one, I would say, is the overall style. Whether it's the leather jackets and motorcycles, a strange MTV fashion victim kind of attire that Sam dons, the look of the 80s really is screaming forth, through their opening introduction, stuff at the boardwalk, or this guy, Tim Capello, simply being him. It's just the style, everything about the style in this film definitely rocks. Somehow it's aged really well with that. Number two would be the location. This fictional town of Santa Carla, which I believe was filmed in the Santa Cruz area, was a really great setting. The boardwalk and the people within, how strange that area is, the touristy side to it. Grandpa's house in the hills kind of pushed back from the rest of town. These caves and the beach and the bluff. As somebody who lives in a seemingly perpetual state of 95 degrees Fahrenheit, this California town definitely seems really cool and eclectic, and it's just a really cool setting for this film. Number three, I would say, is the characters. Just our characters in general. I'm not going to single out anybody specifically, but we have a really nice blend of character types in this, with pretty much none of them, including the antagonists, being unlikable in any way. Our protagonists are written really well and they're portrayed well, and where we are instantly on their side and on the looking out for them. And our antagonists, while we know they are bad, we kind of understand the temptation that Michael has getting in with this group just because of how they're portrayed. Number four would be the humor. A lot of times humor gets thrown into something that otherwise is kind of dark, and it just sticks out like a sore thumb. But in this one, while it is still a kind of dark but cool vampire film, like a horror film with this kind of awesomeness on top of it, making it not really terrifying, but little bits of scary stuff here and there, they somehow work in some very well-balanced humor, mainly carried by Corey Haim, I would say, and of course his chemistry with Corey Feldman, but the humor never felt out of left field or distracting or over the top, just little bits here and there to keep things light. Number 5 would be that soundtrack. We got Lou Gramm, Roger Daltrey, Equin the Bunnymen, In Excess, and of course our oiled up sax player Tim Capello. This is one that was always worth scooping up back in the day before things started to get a little bit more popular in the 90s with some of those soundtracks such as Scream and Pulp Fiction. This was a must purchase back in the day, and is not only does it really bring the film along well, but it's one of those soundtracks that's worth queuing up from time to time. Number 6 would be the lore, specifically this vampire lore. Now, when I first saw this, I wasn't familiar with the idea of needing to invite a vampire in, so I didn't really catch on to that part, that entire scene. I mean, I was pretty young at the time, but, you know, aside from working that in, other ideas which weren't as common in films like that were this idea of them hanging upside down in this giant kind of like underground cave in a way. That strange, glittery kind of blood, you know, how they each go out a little bit differently when they're taken out, whether they explode or they die quietly, or they explode the plumbing. And of course the idea of killing the head vampire, not just to heal those that he made, but ones which aren't full or haven't had their first kill. Really like that idea and how they work the lore into this, and very quickly bring us into what to expect with that. Number 3 would be the overall story. You know, the story in this one really works well. I mean, sure, we needed to have the right style and cast and direction and effects and so on, but really the idea of this newly single mother moving in with dad, teenagers in tow, she's trying to find a job, becoming interested in and dating Max, the boys looking to kind of explore town, find their own place and so on, and the way that the vampires kind of latch onto that, start pulling Michael in, and how, as learned by the end, you know, and why, all of this, it's all just really held together well. It's one that you're always interested in what that next step is that's coming forward. Number 8 would be the pacing and length. So for me, I always feel like a lot of horror movies are pretty much good at around the 80 to 90 minute mark. This one pushes it to just under 100, but it never slows down. Even during times when Michael's kind of trying to figure out what's wrong with him or his romance starting up with Star, it never loses its footing, and the runtime is not padded at all. You know, like I said, just under 100 minutes, really great fast-paced film. Number 9 would be the effects. So yeah, it's 80s, so of course it's all practical, but outside of how well the makeup and the fangs and all were executed, the way that the blood was done and the sparkles, you know, staking and the bloody plumbing, all of that stuff, the death by stereo. Of course, there wasn't a digital option back in the day, but even in the days of practical effects, there were times when it could be very poorly executed. Not in this case. Everything came together well, and it never seemed like they were trying to throw in a bunch of effects into a scene. Everything seemed like it was well paced out why they're showing different things. Really worked out awesome. And number 10, our final bit here, the final thing that always comes to mind for me is just the weird and quirky stuff, which kind of keeps it feeling a bit light. You know, gives it a bit of character or something like that, such as the fangs were a bit different in this. You know, later on we saw it similar in True Blood, where instead of elongating the canines, they're going one further in on that. A little bit different than what we normally see. It kind of weirded me out because I was always used to, when I was a kid, seeing the canines being elongated. The sparkly blood, you know, that's kind of coming out as like this more gooey, oozy kind of thing instead of bright red, and then as they get into the light, you see it sparkling. It's a really cool effect to make it kind of stand out. Feldman's voice. I've always found that to be one of the strange things about why he chose to intentionally and so obviously try to lower his voice so much for this role. Guess it's supposed to be his character trying to act like the tough guy, so it ended up working more as comedic than tough, but it always sticks out. And of course, as I've already mentioned a couple times, another weird thing that just sticks out is the sax man himself, Tim Capello. Really nice guy, met him at a convention a little while back, but even for new viewers, it sticks out like a sore thumb as to what this is. I mean, just look at this clip here from Cinebinch, which I will link to their full reaction in the description, so be sure to check out that one, but their reaction is priceless.
Wow! 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 Is that where they got the Fortnite saxophone thing from?
Oh my god! It's so everything. Look at the outfit.
I can't handle it. It's too much. Play the saxophone again! Oh my god.
And of course there is the random all the damn vampires. the idea that Grandpa knew about these vampires the whole time, even when Max showed up for dinner, and he just kind of keeps to himself. But actually, there's one more final thing, which is kind of strange. Rob Lowe. Of course, he's not in this film, but there's a strange poster of him, so I can understand the character of Sam having the Molly Ringwald poster. But to also have a Rob Lowe poster was very strange. It sticks out why he has this... I don't know, it's strange. I think even Rob Lowe had mentioned it on his podcast at some time. It just sticks out as kind of a weird, quirky little set dressing that happened in there. But anyways, there you have it. That's my little 10 awesome things I like about this film. The cool stuff that comes to mind, just my humble opinion. Now, I remember seeing this one in the theater, like I said, later on cable, recording it to VHS, buying a Laserdisc, buying a DVD, buying a Blu-ray, and then getting the 4K, which is how I watched it recently. It's always worth a revisit, and if you feel like you know it inside and out, don't get too wrapped up in any kind of multitasking on your next viewing. Just put the phone away and really pay attention. I found that for some films that I know really well, I get kind of distracted because I think I kind of know it. I can look away for a moment, but I've been trying to make a point putting the phone away and paying closer attention, because while I can remember the really big impactful scenes that are always going to come to mind, there's a lot of little in-between stuff that you start to forget over the years. And so just sitting down and refocusing on something like that makes it almost feel like a new film in some ways, even if it's a repeat viewing. But kind of going in with that mindset definitely makes it more than worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this latest quick little video here for the 10 awesome things video. You know, just 10 things that I really love about The Lost Boys. Which at the time of this video, like I said, it's only on paid rental for like $4, so you may as well scoop it up on Blu-ray. I think it's less than $10 at this point. Anyways, that's all that I've got for this video. If you enjoyed, please give me a thumbs up, and if not already subscribed, consider subscribing, checking out my back catalog. You know, if you're ever looking for something to check out, and I will see you in the next one.